I think you really need a platform or tool or maybe a very good technical account manager who is going to help you really look at the usage data. So the cost is one thing, but like I was talking to my partner the other day and it was like, oh, HBO's raising their premium. We should just get rid of it. I never watch it. And he goes, I watch it all the time. And I go, I hadn't. Okay, this is new. So now let's revisit this assumption that we should get rid of it. And I said, well, how much is it worth to you? How much do you think you would want to pay per month? Let's not even look at what we're paying now. Let's just go off of that. And so he was like, oh, if it's more than 20, I'm out. And I said, okay, good news. It's not going to be more than 20 from what I can tell. So like, we'll go ahead. But if I were going to make that decision all on my own, I would have just cut it because I assumed neither of us were watching it. And so when it comes to our observability data, it's not enough to like, when people make those cuts to say, we've got to reduce the bill. Okay, well, let's just only do 4 days of staging logs. Or if let's not even save staging logs before 1 day. And I go, just because it's a lower environment doesn't mean it's less important than your production data. In fact, I would say your staging data is totally important because it's the place where you're going to catch things, but what you can catch before production.
Yeah.
So I really encourage people to look at not just what are you getting charged for. That's like your vendor's billing model. That's there are gripes with how legacy providers have got those set up, but you need to understand not just what you're being charged, but who's using this, where, how. Is this metric really expensive, but it's in 10 of your SLO alerts? That's totally worth keeping and paying for. So I really encourage people to think in terms of what is the value of this metric providing, or trace or log or whatever, in terms of, are people looking at it? Is it being used? And then we can look at cost and make those judgments. Bill, what do you think? You've seen many an observability invoice.
Yes.
I don't know that they quite frame things the way I do in terms of cost and usage. What is your advice?
I think that, I mean, you're spot on. I think I'm big on talking to people about, number one, breaking this cycle of collect everything, like I was talking about before. But when I talk to folks about like, how do I instrument my service? I start by asking, well, why does it exist? Somebody on your business team decided we want to offer this capability. All right, great. What was their expectation? How fast should it be? What's their tolerance for it being unavailable? What's their tolerance for error and risk? And build your metrics stack based on that, your metrics and traces and logs based on that. Instead of just, I'm going to log everything, I'm going to collect all of these metrics and figure all that out. Be really intentful about what you collect. And then, to your point, figure out how you define the value of that metric and how do you make sure that that value is actually there, right? If you're collecting a Kubernetes label for a pod and you have 1,000 pods at normal time and you're collecting that metric every second, that's a lot of cardinality for a label that probably doesn't have a lot of value and you're paying for it. So you've got to understand what you're collecting, have a decision that says, I'm collecting this for a very clear reason, and then stick with it. And that's not to say that people don't wind up with maybe metrics that are partially useful, but there are a lot out there, I would argue, and that I've seen that have almost no value, and people pay a lot for them.